Hello, lovely humans. Welcome back to the tangent. We are on episode 2. I felt like a good place to start would be, how do we even talk about this thing? Disabledness is complicated, and many people are maybe scared or intimidated or maybe just unsure about how we talk about it, how do we engage with and support disabled people. So let's unpack that a little bit. Buckle up, lovelies. We're taking a ride through some of the quirkiest corners of my life on wheels. I'm Katie, and I've been doing this disabled thing since day one. This is not your typical disability education podcast. Every tangent, every detour is a chance to look behind that curtain of disabled life, unravel the threads of confusion, and discover those, whoa, that actually makes sense moments. Eventually, this is the tangent, where laughter is the map, curiosity is the compass, and understanding blooms even in the craziest corners. Hit subscribe, grab your headphones, and get ready to be surprised, because the way to understand why is to embrace the wild, hilarious how. So let's do the thing. Okay, so the thing that I love about disabledness is that there's sort of this unspoken rule that you're not allowed to speak for other people. It's not as unspoken as sort of like generally understood by disabled people. So when we talk about it, it's to other people, non-disabled people, people who are not in the disabled community. There's always a disabled caveat, or a disability caveat, rather. And it goes something like, disability is a unique experience, and it's nuanced and complex, and so this story that I'm sharing is only my perspective. It's based only on my experience, and I'm not speaking to undermine or invalidate anybody else's experience if it differs from mine. So that's my version of the caveat. So please take that as we go into all of these conversations, remembering that it's my perspective that I'm speaking from. So if you are a disabled person and your perspective is different, beautiful, like, claim that, and we can maybe talk about it if that's interesting to people. So let's just take that attitude as we move forward through this conversation of how we navigate language and discussing disability. So people have different disability labels, right? So the way that people claim their disability is different. So for me, my disability labels are disabled and differently abled. I don't really like when people say I am a person with a disability, because I choose to use identity first language as opposed to person first language, because I feel it has more, it's more rooted in being proud of disabledness and my life as a disabled person. But that's for me. Also, just in terms of like admin to say person with disability, I don't have the energy to do that. So identity first language for me, please. If you don't know what identity first language is, it is essentially saying it as it is. So I am a disabled person. You can say I'm an autistic person or a blind person. Whatever your disability is, it's that and person. Did that make sense? So person first language would be, I am a person with autism, or I'm a person with a disability. And that mode of speaking about disability came from the social model of disability. I think I'm going to do a separate episode on sort of disability history and like how we've got to where we are now, because it's phenomenal and I think super interesting. So let me know if that's something that you would be keen to understand and unpack with me, because I feel like it gives a lot of insight and a lot of depth and understanding to why people are the way that we are. And so let me know if you want that and we can make that happen. So for me, I think words really, really matter. I think that the way that we exist and like travel in the world, words are important, and how people speak about you and how you speak about yourself is important, and words reflect so much about people and how you see me. So I would love for people to recognize that whatever you're saying to me, I am receiving that. I'm receiving what you say in a particular way based on all my history and stuff, regardless of what your intentions may be. So you having good intentions with asking a question or whatever the context is impacted by my experiences, and I'm receiving it based on my experience. I don't know what your position is. I think this is a give and take situation. So maybe I need a little more grace, and maybe I need to make some space for your ignorance and lack of understanding in the nicest way possible. And maybe you need to have a little more awareness of my circumstances and my life experiences, so that you don't put yourself in an awkward situation. I think a good kind of rule of thumb would be, if you're not comfortable asking the question that you're about to ask a disabled person, if you're not comfortable asking that question in this situation that you are currently in to a non-disabled person, then don't ask that question to a disabled person. I think that would solve a lot of issues. I've had so many people come up to me in an elevator. I think I'm a little bit triggered by elevators. A little bit problematic as a wheelchair-using human who can't climb stairs, but that's fine, we'll figure it out. I've had so many people come up to me and say, in an elevator that takes 20 seconds to get up to the next floor, and people ask me, what happened to you? That's not enough time, people, to tell you my whole life story. Also, maybe I just had a 20-minute internal panic attack about going into a shop by myself because I don't know whether there's going to be somebody in the elevator or somebody nearby to press buttons for me if they're too high for me. Maybe I'm preoccupied with those thoughts. And then when you engage with me with your good intentions, coming and asking me what happened and how I ended up in my chair, and I get grumpy and have a less than ideal interaction with you, what are you expecting is gonna happen? So that's what I mean when, like, maybe a little bit of awareness and bigger picture thinking is required when we're living our lives together, so that we can be happier and, like, nicer to each other. I am openly a proud disabled person. I am proud and I'm loud. I occupy space loudly. I occupy a lot of space. My disability is very obvious to people, so, like, I go into a room and you know that I'm the disabled one, but, like, my point is I claim my disabledness very boldly, and it's important to me. There are a couple things that I really don't like when people say to me. Like, I don't need you to tell me that I'm not defined by my disability. I believe that I am, and I think every experience I have is the way that it is because I'm a disabled person. I have experiences defined by my disabledness, and that's fine. People think that it's bad to be defined by your disability, but I think it's giving us powers and skills and knowledge that we wouldn't have otherwise. And I think that it needs to be broadly understood in that way. And that's sort of where, like, your perspective is the way, like, you're receiving my not being upset about being defined by my disability. You're receiving that negatively, maybe because of your experiences. And I think we all have some work to do, right? Because I'm not sitting here to, like, preach about it and be the super, like, evolved, self-aware, disabled person. I am more self-aware than I was a couple of years ago. But it's a journey that we go on and we learn stuff, and I'm still learning things and figuring things out, so, you know, we gotta make space. I would also like to say that I am a lifelong disabled person. My only perspective on life is as a disabled person. So my disability is in every memory that I have. It's a part of everything. And so that is a very different experience to somebody who gains their disability later in life. And I remember, like, a good few years ago, Molly Matlin, she's a deaf actress, she's awesome. She was involved in an awareness campaign, and one of the things that was said in the campaign, you can go find it, I'm sure, but what she ended with was, it's not hearing loss, it's deaf gain. And I think that's an incredible perspective to share with people. So I often confuse people when I'm saying, oh, when did you gain your disability? Because societally, we understand disability as entirely negative. So when you pitch it as a positive, people are confused and don't always understand how to interpret that or how to appreciate that. So I love it. I also love confusing people a little bit. Like, it's a little bit fun. For me, we gotta claim the little joys in life sometimes. But I think there are so many positive things about disability. We're just not educated and socialized to share them as much as the negatives and the struggles and how hard my life is. So we need to maybe fix that. So it's important to me that disability is not understood simplistically. Is that a word? Okay, well, I hope so. To me, disability is an encompassing experience that affects everything. So saying it's just something, if you have a physical disability, saying that it's just something that happened to my body is an oversimplification and doesn't allow us to fully interact with the impact of living with a disability and what that means to me as a disabled person, what that means for you as somebody supporting a disabled person, what it means for people that don't even know anything about disability at all. There are so many things to understand, and I understand that that can be overwhelming, but also you gotta start somewhere. So I'm encouraging you, wherever you are in that journey, to keep going or start or learn stuff. Just be open to learning about other people's experiences. Remember the curiosity. Curiosity is important, and it leads to great things when we positively engage with it, and it's a powerful thing to experience as a disabled person when people recognize the bigness of my disability and the fact that it does encompass everything and it does affect everything. I believe that we are building a relationship with your disability whether you are trying to or not. So the way that I engage with my disability, I sort of see it as like another person. This is gonna make sense, I hope. It's like another personality within myself that I have with me constantly, who like I have to negotiate with and converse with and debate with and convince to work with me sometimes, often, most days. So most days I like win those battles, and some days I'm just like, you know what, we're being like, my disability won today. And so I often say we when I'm talking about things, and I forget that it's just me. I say we because it's me and my disability. But also often I'm doing things with other people. So it's generally not just me by myself as one person doing any activity. So there's that. So my relationship with my disability, I think, has been pretty interesting. It's pretty positive most of the time, unless the negative narratives and things that I've internalized, they pop up sometimes. I've been doing therapy for like 3-ish years now, so it's been a super helpful tool to me. I am an advocate for people to go to therapy and figure your stuff out, because it's hard out there. It's hard to exist as a person, and I'm not pretending that I know what I'm doing and that I can do any of this by myself. I'm not pretending that I can understand the way my brain works by myself. I need help with that. I'm gonna do a whole episode on mental health stuff and disabledness, but just for disclosure, I So I have depression and anxiety, which is a vibe. Love that for me. It's complicated. And when I started therapy, it took a while to be honest with myself and my therapist about how I felt about my disability, because I have built, if any of you know me and my history and my life, I have built a persona and a life around being the positive, can-do, disabled person. So it took months to just acknowledge that I even had that, and that I was doing that, that I was portraying this persona and trying so hard to keep up that appearance, and having this conversation with myself that if I'm not the positive, can-do, disabled person, if I'm not that, what am I doing here? What are we doing? And it took months of therapy to get comfortable with saying I'm not always okay with my disability. So leading into that, reflecting on that and engaging with people with that honesty and that understanding of myself helps me to, I think, have more genuine experiences. It lets me be more present in my life because I'm not working so hard to keep up that appearance of being the happy disabled person and the solution finder and all of the other identities that I had, that I've placed on myself and others have placed on me. So that can go into a whole other conversation, and we can talk about the narratives that I've internalized. I push back on them now with sarcasm often. Of course, myself as a disabled person, I am totally only here to inspire non-disabled people and to act as a comparative study for how great your life is because you're not disabled. Stop it, people. We don't need that kind of attitude here. We are here with the attitude of sometimes it's great, sometimes it's shit, sometimes it's really hard and we don't know what we're doing and we need to lean on other people, and that's fine. We need to just exist authentically, and I realize how cliche maybe that is, but we do. When we exist authentically as our disabled selves and as our non-disabled selves, we are able to do more things because we're not so occupied with fulfilling the pictures that other people have of us. So, all of that being said, I think there are a couple of things that I only late in my disabled life sort of started unpacking and appreciating and realizing. So things like disabled pride, disabled grief, disabled frustration, and disabled joy. What are these things? I only uncovered them embarrassingly a couple years ago, and I was what's going on over here? I need to know more. And I think you have to be quite aware of yourself and how you show up in situations, because disabled pride is just about being exactly how disabled you are in the moment that you are existing in it. And being it is what it is, but not in a negative way. I guess an example of like disabled joy I had recently was I moved into my own place a couple years ago, and there's like a little step to get in, and my brother-in-law made a ramp for me so that I can get in. And the day that he put that ramp in, and I could, like, without assistance, get into my own flat, that was a moment of disabled joy. And there's so many more of those if we just pay attention to them. And I think they are so meaningful and powerful and empowering when we let them happen for ourselves. At least that's what I found. I feel like when I embrace these things more openly, I am better at claiming my disabledness. And there are so many powerful experiences in living as a disabled person, so many lessons, so many great things, and I'm so grateful for my disability for so many reasons. And I think my final message here is that you are allowed to feel however you feel about your disability. Don't let other people make you feel like a burden because you have needs, or feel like your disability makes you too much. That's a thing that I struggle with regularly, and working on it, figuring out how to get past that one is a big one. But we are powerful as we sit or stand or exist. Nobody can take our value away. So I want to be open about sharing that experience with others. I want to make space for myself to feel my feelings, to get upset when people don't appreciate the value that my disabledness brings, to get excited when random things happen that I only get excited about because I'm disabled. And at this second I can't think of any of those things, but they'll come to me and I'll share them randomly in a tangent. Being disabled is a powerful experience for everybody who is living it. And my disabled experience has been one that I'm so grateful for, one that I don't appreciate all the time, but I'm working on that. And we can talk about it. We can talk about how we feel. We can talk about why disability is great, why it's difficult, like how the system doesn't always work for us, and just be more accepting of each other and where we are all at. Because life is hard sometimes, and that was a really extended last thought. My apologies. I think there were 8 tangents just in the last thought, but I think it's reflective of like how complicated disabledness can be, and how many conversations we need to have, and why it's so important to get a deeper understanding of what disability means, because to me it's really important. And for me in my life, I really love my disability, which may sound weird to people, but that's the way it is in its entirety. And that's my takeaway of the day. We can have little like moments of it being less than ideal and pretty horrendous, but overall I'm really happy and content with where I'm at, and I hope that other people find that and are that. And I think that I can express myself about my disability better now because I understand it better. And that's the journey that we all go on all the time, every day, and that's awesome. There's so much space for learning, so much space for being encouraging and supportive, and just holding space for the disabled experience. If we can do that together, I think we would live in a more incredible place. The world would be better because people would be more seen and heard and supported to be everything that we are supposed to be, encouraged to engage with society to our full potential. With all of those tangents having happened, I am going to just stop talking now, because I think if I keep going, I am just going to go on endless tangents. So, have a beautiful day wherever you are, and we'll chat next time.